Hi, Bruce Aisha from Attack here, and we're going to be putting two of Noise Engineering's new plugins through their paces. Polydactyl and Librae both focus on dynamics, saturation and distortion, but more importantly they're great for dance music, and this is how we're using them. Don't forget though, all Noise Engineering accounts come with the fantastic Freequel bundle. It's in the name, they're free, and includes two powerful synths and a massively creative, multifaceted distortion plugin. Finally, we'd really appreciate it if you subscribed and turned on notifications to get the latest Attack news and content. Let's start with Polydactyl, which allows you to apply processing differently across multiple frequency bands. Here we're going to begin with a classic 909 kick drum and then start applying some processing. So we have our straightforward to the floor. Let's load up Polydactyl. You can see here that we've got all the bands bypassed and also the pre and post processing bypassed. Let's introduce a bit of processing. What we're doing here is adding some compression across everything via the room control. Things get more interesting when we add some extra processing via the high-mid band. Saturation, a bit of drive, and I push that blend control up, adding some nice harmonics just in this area. Further shaping via the low mid, push up the blend. And you hear how the harmonics coming from that lower mid area adding to the signal. Let's bypass everything. And now the full process version. Now, of course, this is pretty simple. We're just dealing with a single sound. So why don't we add some extra elements into the mix? You can already hear that the more complex the sounds fed into the processing here, the more interesting the results. We've only got two bands and a bit of pre element going on. Let's open things up and let's look at how we can actually push things a little further. Let's introduce the post band. At the moment, no processing going on. I'm going to increase the blend control. We've got saturation, we've got soft drive, we've got the hard drive. The harsh sound of that zero pop. We're pushing the compression. We're bringing the 4 up, which acts almost like a noise gate at the extreme end. It's an expander. Before and after. It's all to the blend here. Great tool for toughening up those rhythms. Really simple 909 pattern. It's only really dirty and highly usable. But that's not all. We've got the modulation section, which contains 4 LFOs, 4 macros, and the envelope control, which derives its output from the signal within the plugin. Let's dive into LFO 1. We set it up here. The strength of the LFO, we set it to wave mode. We can also have a step sequence mode as well. And the rate is going to be synced to the tempo of the track, and we're ready to apply it to some parameters. Adding LFO 1 to automate the 0 pop parameter. Sync to tempo. You can slow it down or speed it up in relation to that tempo. Change the wave shape. Let's automate another parameter. Do the room parameter on the post output stage. Map to LFO2. Dial up the strength of that LFO. step-based pattern. We can randomize it. Sync to tempo again. Back to the parameters. Let's go for the low band. Let's find something we can automate. So the soft drive, the blend is up. We're going to automate that soft blend using the envelope. Push the strength up. Pull the parameter down, but the strength is nudging that value up based on the envelope shape, the envelope of the audio. Subtle but effective. Now go to the high band. We're going to automate this parameter again, but using LFO3. It's ramping up at the moment. Not sync to tempo. We can change that shape into a curve. So pushing the gain up based on that wave shape. Now LFO4. Controlling parameter again, but with another LFO. Actually, let's try a sine wave not sync to tempo. Lots of fun. So that floor parameter there on the high band. Linked to LFO4 as well. So lots of stuff going on there, and we haven't even touched on the macros for controlling multiple parameters at the same time. Fantastic stuff. Before we finish with Polydactyl, it's worth pointing out a couple of nice little extras here. We've got the nudge button, which slightly randomizes all tone parameters. We've got the randomize button, which completely randomizes all the tone parameters. And then we also, in the modulation section, we also have this ability to randomize a chosen parameter. So let's give these all a quick go. Nudging here, see the small parameter movements. We're adding randomized destinations for the modulation. Each click adds another one. Then we dial in the strength of them, increasing those. Now full randomization going on here. Each press delivering a different set of parameters. Great stuff. So even if you don't want to dive into specific parameters, there's some fantastic ways you can come up with some really creative uses for this plugin. So let's take a look at Librae. This is very similar to Polydactyl in terms of the types of processing it does. That saturation, that drive and so on, and also in terms of the modulation. But one critical difference here is rather than splitting the signal into multiple bands, it splits it into the mid and the side signal. The mid signal, the elements that come out of both speakers in a stereo signal, and the sides, the different signal, the things that are different between those two channels. So in effect, the side signal very often, if you're using reverbs and other things like that, is going to be the ambience element coming through in there. And we can change the balance between the two. We can process them differently. Let's have a listen. So mid and side processing is bypassed here. We could apply some processing from the pre section and in the post section, but let's leave that. Let's look at the mid. Now I've pushed the mid here. I've got a bit of saturation going on. I've actually pushed up the room parameter to get a little bit of extra compression there. Bit of soft drive blended in. I'm not adding the hard drive and blending that in at all, or the zero pop. Those are much kind of harsher. So from a pre-master or a mastering perspective, subtle is going to be better here. We've also got these weight controls, and by pulling this down, it means that the bass end has less effect on the compressor, so you get less pumping. That might give you a kind of cleaner result, which could be useful for slightly less pumping effect when you're looking to do the pre-master or the master. Push the weight high up, and the high frequencies have more impact on that compressor. So the high frequency compression is going to be less noticeable. But let's push those back to somewhere in the middle. Now the side signal here, bypass that, and you can hear there's stuff going on. Immediately the stereo image opens up and you can see it on the meter here. Much wider range in that graphic there. That's because I blended in saturation, compression, bit of the soft drive again, and I'm pushing those up. Now again, in pre-master or kind of mastering applications, you're not going to push these too far as a rule. And whilst you can do that heavy-handed processing with Librae, I think for something like this, where we've got the track and it's already mixed and it's full track elements, we're just pushing to get a little bit of extra out of the track. Of course, there's some level differences here. The compression is going to make the signal sound louder anyway. It brings up the average level. So there we go, Librae and Polydactyl, two fantastic plugins. Lots of overlaps in terms of the types of processing they can do, but actually I feel that Polydactyl, great for that real heavy-handed processing if that's the kind of thing you want to do, and Librae probably better for that more subtle processing that you're going to use, as I mentioned, on the pre-master and the master. Check them out, don't forget that Freequel bundle, and of course don't forget to like us. Thanks, bye.